Jess, t'aurais pu dire les gâteaux.
Okay, we're ready to start for this morning. I have to have some apologies because David Penfold, who was going to do a lecture, emailed me first thing this morning. He's really not well, so he's going to give a lecture on semantic web. So we'll rearrange that for. He did send me lots of video links to do, but rather than just show lots of videos with me not knowing what the videos are before we present them, which meant I didn't have much interaction to it, and you can ask questions and things. We're trying to arrange something on top of that. So unfortunately, you've got me. So we're going to be looking at a subject, and this is a lecture that comes with a weather forecast. So today's weather forecast is not going to start off so well. So it's going to be a bit foggy to start off with at the beginning of the lecture, and then it's going to be a bit intermediate, and some sun's going to come out, but it's still going to be a little bit cloudy as we're working through. But then suddenly a warm front's going to come over this lecture, and the weather will start to improve. But sadly, the cold front is on its way, and it's not going to go so well later on. And then at the end, well, it depends where you are. Some places it's going to be foggy, in some places it's going to be sunny, and some places it's going to be cold and miserable and horrible, and that's for you to decide where you are. So if you want to get yourself in a sunny spot, that's a good time. If you end up in a foggy spot, then we really haven't succeeded in much, but that might be for the better as well. So today's subject is about clouds. And what you'll find is on the left we've got the weather forecast, so you can find out what time of day we're at as we're working through this.
Imaginative, Chris, I have to say.
So of course we do a weather forecast. So we're going to be talking about clouds, and you can plot on the left-hand side where we are as we work through. So this morning it was introduced about the clouds, that the cloud is out there, but a lot of people aren't quite sure what the cloud is and what it does, what its potential is. So we're going to try and start with this. So to discover the cloud, we need to go back in time. Everything I do in the future is you've got to go back into the past to discover where things are going into the future. So we need to go back into some of the origins of the computer industry to discover what the cloud is, what it's going to do, and what it's actually going to deliver for you. So there's two main players in the computer industry. I mean, key players. Who are those? Any ideas? Microsoft, not Apple.
IBM.
No? Two big platform suppliers. No? We think of personalities. In charge of Microsoft, we've got Bill Gates. And the other biggest company, although Apple have superseded this a little bit, the other biggest company is Oracle. Everyone heard of Oracle? Everyone heard of Larry Ellison?
No.
Wow, you need to do some learning.
Oracle, you're going too far back in time.
Well, it's still big there. So we know Bill Gates. His philosophy is the computer is king, and I'd just like to show you a video about how good Microsoft is with their launch of Windows 97.
It's going to say, hey, I see you put in a new device, and it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner, Bill, whoa. Moving right along.
That must be why we're not shipping Windows 98.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Microsoft, the pinnacle of all things wonderful. And that was the live launch of Windows 98 on CNN. So even the best presentations had the potential to go wrong. But you know Bill Gates. You don't know Larry Ellison. He's the control of a company called Oracle. And his philosophy, as opposed to Bill Gates, where Bill Gates is his computer is king, Oracle's philosophy is the monitor is king. And you're saying, well, where is Apple in between this? They actually sit right in between these two philosophies. technology. So Larry Ellison, he's a big evangelist of sailors. This is his launch of his boat that runs in the America's Cup. He loves sailing, so I thought this is his launch of his new boat in San Francisco.
Okay.
Wow.
I love that guy hanging onto the sail. So all the best technologies have an advantage to go wrong, and money doesn't mean that you're going to be a total success. So Larry Ellison, his opinion of cloud computing is this: cloud computing is not only the future, it's also the present and the entire past of computing. I've always been doing cloud computing. This is a quote when clouds first started to be announced in 2009, because cloud computing is about the power that's delivered to your monitor, not the power that's delivered on your computer. So we've got the 10 Commandments coming on. We've got two opposing philosophies: the computer is king and the monitor is king. So we're going to go through the 10 Commandments of Ellison and Gates. So we'll start off with Gates' philosophy. His is: thou desktop shall be all-knowing and all-powerful. Thou shalt seek hardware and extra memory so you can live in the present. Thou shalt convert thy neighbour's machines, for they are always greater. Thou shalt obey more law and readily part with money for the love of Gates. Thou shalt not covet devils like Linux, or thine OS is good. Thou shalt need to protect each machine from thy devil's viruses. Thou shalt need endless additional peripherals like memory sticks and hard drives. Thou shalt manage thine own data on each machine. Thou shalt not bribe thy systems manager so as to covet TV or gameplay. And they shall buy software for each machine, which will keep Gates in riches. So these are the way Microsoft works. You've got to buy things for each machine, you've got to buy licenses, and you've got to keep constantly updating it, and you always look at somebody else's machine, which is better, faster, and newer than yours. So Larry Ellison's philosophy is: thy monitor shall be powerful, and thou shalt worship thy network. Thine OS shall be expandable and adaptable. Thou shalt have a network so robust that thou shalt be beholden to it. Thine data shall be available everywhere and to others beloved users on thy network. If thou server dies, upgrades and maintenance shall be easy. Thou shalt have access to everything, though this may not be free. Thy data shall be streamed and thy desktop shall be clean. Thy data shall be secure and available everywhere. Thy data shall be protected by a single network security solution. And thy data shall be protected from the time-wasting devil, for the Lord shall not make games nor allow TV. So, Larry Ellison's philosophy is that the network distributes information, and you work on that information from anywhere on any device. This was the principle of Oracle. Oracle are one of the first companies to make the huge mainframe computers and to make the networks available, so you didn't have to be connected to a machine. All you had was a monitor. And this was the founding of cloud. So, but what is the cloud? So here we have a short little video to explain what the cloud is.
Well, this is not my first tech conference, so I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. I've got my backpack free. They give me a free backpack. I already put my stuff in it. Got my badge. I can go anywhere. We need our stinking badges here. I have my teddy egg. You have one of these. You can sand your feet down. You can get a little dry sometimes, especially this time of heat. I have one of those. I got my stress ball. Talking to these executives that kind of just wear you out. You get a lot of tense. You need some tension in this baby. And then finally, when you go to the bar, 0.5-hour energy drink. So I'm all set. I'm ready to go out. I'm ready to talk to some people. Let's see who wants to tell me what a cloud is. Excuse me, ladies, may I ask you about cloud computing and SaaS? Or could I, yeah, a second?
Yeah, no, sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Do you know anything about clouds?
Like one of my weekends?
Moisture, not a concern. Moisture, not a concern. Interesting. Do you ever look at clouds and say, like, what kind of animal does that look like to me?
Yeah, more like a sheep. Typically, sheep is typically what I say right off the bat.
Fluffy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very imaginative. And do you think you're going to be implementing some cloud stuff in your business?
Well, I'm a student right now.
Where are you a student?
University.
University. I believe the children are our future. Have you heard about this thing where you can make money on just the, like one person offers a certain amount to buy for a stock and another person is selling it for a certain amount and I can get in the middle and just make a couple cents on every transaction? Would you be able to help me with that? You can tell that I don't know much about cloud computing. Virtualization is forget it. I mean, to me, the whole cloud is like virtualization, but now I'm over my head, really. Okay. Are you hungry? So we're trying to find out about the cloud over here in the showroom floor. Now, if you look over here, see that? Shoot that cloud. See that where it says cloud up there? It's all right behind here. So hi, can we go in there now? Is it? You can't go in. We can go right in. He's a security.
Nobody told me any different.
When they first put the cloud in, there's going to be all this kind of plastic on the ground, so people don't muddy it up. You know, it's going to be a fluffy white cloud, not a dirty brown rain cloud. They're vacuuming the cloud right over there. Very handsome guy, this guy. Very handsome guy. Yeah. He's a doctor. I got a couple things I'm going to have to take a look at. Can you believe it? It's right in here, the data center of the future. We're going in here right now. We're going to see it. It's not scary. I'm told it's not scary. Okay, I'm not sure if this is a cloud or not, but this is the data center for CA World. The data center for CA World is inside this plastic box. Bill, I understand you're in charge of the data center for CA World. Yes. And this is it. Did you build that whole thing?
My folks sold them. They all put it together.
You know how to build clouds.
Yes, we do.
Bring
And
you-
manage them.
Build and manage them. Right, that's what we do. And you work for CA. Yes, I do. The message is that CA knows how to build and manage clouds. I found one that they built, and you're managing it, and it's right in there. Sweet. Finally, we've gotten to the bottom of this thing. Thank you.
So now we've cleared up the problem of what a cloud is, we can sort of move on a bit, but maybe we haven't. So to prepare for this, I went to a conference last year to talk to this, a Cloudforce conference. It was lovely. It told us all about the cloud and what's going on and what it can do for it. And so, so there's me. I've got my name tag. You've got to have your pass to get in everywhere for these. And they did give me a little stress ball as well. But let's look at really what the cloud is. If we start back in the 60s with centralized computers. The first computers weren't your desktop computers. They were a computer you would tap into via some kind of telephone network system. When I was at school, now I can't remember that. No, I can still remember. We had the British Telecom computer, and it was a computer at what is the BT Tower or the Post Office Tower, whatever you want to call it, that big round thing in the West End. And the school could tap into there, and you could do pretty much nothing on it, but you could tap into it, and that was what we call a centralized computer. So very limited power. To have 1K of RAM would probably fill this room. It was really quite restricted. From there we went into what we call mainframes, and then we developed supercomputer mainframes, then we had client servers, and we move up to where we get to the point where we start to develop the internet. This would have been through the 70s. Then we moved rapidly on to the development of TCP, the World Wide Web, then became email, business, grid computing, Web 2, which we're at now, and now we've reached the pinnacle, which is the cloud. So it's really just a basic form of networked computing. So, but the cloud offers much more services than it used to before. So within that, we can have simple databases. We can link external computers in it. One of the big users of Oracle systems were big corporate houses. So who uses a cash machine here? Everyone uses a cash machine. That's an Oracle-based system. It's a dumb terminal which allows you to do something on it, and it's a singular purpose. So that's a cloud system that's been out for a long while. So we can link other computers into it, like cash machines, computers. We can link smartphones into it, we can link pads into it, we can link laptops into it, we can put anything from any third party to it, and we can throw this kitchen sink at it and link that in. So everything has the potential now of being linked to a cloud if it has a network connection. That's the only thing you need from a cloud. So what is the cloud again? The cloud is a data center. On a data center, you can place your information and you can access it anywhere you have an internet connection and on any device. And that's the key to modern cloud technology, is it's device independent. And if you're making a cloud app that isn't device independent, unless you're doing a very high security thing, so you want to keep it closed, it should be available to anyone. So the data center are the people who provide access to the cloud. These are the people like Tier 1 who have huge resources of network and capacity to store and distribute your information. So, places where you can connect to the cloud are not location dependent these days. So, my wife, for example, doesn't work out of an office. She works out of anywhere. So often spends a lot of time in Starbucks on their connections and just have a cup of coffee and does a lot of work there. You find a lot of people writing books and things in Starbucks. So a good cloud system isn't location dependent. The idea of the cloud system is to give you portability. Not just portability of data, so you can surf the internet in Starbucks, but also portability of services. So you're not just reliant on a machine which has Microsoft Office on it. You can connect to any network and use Microsoft Office over that network. So you don't have to buy software, you buy into services, and that's the key of good, efficient cloud. The idea of this is to reduce the cost. You know, in this building here, every machine has CS Suite, every machine has the Office Suite, every machine has... How much does that cost to put on every machine? Huge amounts of money. But what you can do is only pay for what you're using. So when most of the CS Suite is sitting there redundant, 90% of the time, you don't actually pay for it. You only pay for the 10% of the time that you want to use. So you don't have to buy a huge amount of software. You just tap into it and use it when and where you can. So hopefully that reduces costs. The cloud uses what we call the grid system. The grid system is where we can link different systems together. And these uses things like SAS, PaaS, IaaS, lots of asses. And so we're coming to some of those on what they actually mean. They're inventing new asses every day. There's a different way of interpreting ass. Everyone has a different opinion of what a good ass is. So they're coming out, and some are having different phrases for the same thing. So I like a nice round ass, some people like a slim ass, and all that. So, SaaS. SaaS means software or service as a service. Service as a service sounds all a bit awkward, but software as a service makes a bit more sense, I think, for you people. So, a SaaS was really the beginning of the cloud, in my opinion. You can have some different arguments on that, but SaaS is what it is. You can get a service from a network which you can find useful. So SaaS does not only allow the data owner to control their data or ownership of it, allows distribution of it. You can argue that the internet is a SaaS because it's a service via a browser and you can access the information for that. But you can also own part of that and you can use part of that. So a SaaS vendor can control access to the user. So when you've got a variety of different users, so you're working in a company, different people can have different allowances of what they get in. So they can have different access rights, privileges. So if anyone's built a WordPress site, you know that you can make different users have different kind of access control. And you can take away people's rights from using it if you want. The trouble with a SaaS is the customer often has no control over it. It's down to the person who's administering the SaaS to allow you access to this rather than you having access to everything all the time. So you only get what you're given. Common SaaS solutions. We know Flickr, we know YouTube, we know iPlayer. You can put stuff on YouTube. YouTube gives you the rights to upload things, but they also have the right to ban you. They also have the rights to take the videos off and have the rights to distribute the things. So you're not actually owning a lot there, you're just buying into a service. It's a service that might be useful. You can, in your control of YouTube SaaS, decide who's allowed to view your videos. You can decide what rights they have. Is it under Creative Commons license or is it under a YouTube license? And there's lots more different kind of services online that you can tap into. So SaaS versus ASP. So it's very important to try and look at a service of whether it is a SaaS, you're getting a service as a service or software as a service, or an application as a service, which is what ASP is. An application as a service is something like iTunes. You download this application and it gives you access to something. And that access allows you to do certain things on it. So you can buy things on iTunes, you can look at TV. The SaaS application runs from a server and it can allow multiple users. Let's go back to iTunes. You will have your iTunes account. It is for you and you only, or you and 7 other machines. So you can control it. It's controlled for you. If you want to open it up to everyone, you're not allowed to get everyone to look at your iTunes account and see all your music all the time. So SaaS is sort of a thing like Spotify. So that you've got a software as a solution that allows many people to look at the same content and then manage it themselves on what they want to do. So a lot of people saying Apple is this cloud phenomenon. I argue that Apple is only an ASP. It's only providing an application for you to actually use with limitations of it. So you can tell a difference between a SaaS and an ASP very easily. If you've got a SaaS, you can instantly try it out. You can go to Spotify, try it out, whether you like it or not. If you want to try out iTunes, you've got to download it. So it's an application that you're running from your machine, you're not running it over a network. So a SaaS allows demos. If you're running a SaaS game, a lot of game companies are working into SaaS, you can try a little demo of it before you buy it and you can get the full one. So an app game isn't a SaaS game. An app game is an ASP. If you try it out, they're only going to give you a little bit of it. A SaaS game could be something like Farmville or something like that. So you can try it and you can buy into other services if you want. So try and identify what is a SaaS and what is an ASP. Can be quite useful to see whether you really are on the cloud or not. So game companies really want to move into the cloud. Many of them, I've just said, are ASP, like apps or PSP Go kind of games. That you think you have to download the product to use is an application. So true games will open up a new market and will be truly multiplayer. So you get all these MMOs, massively online multiplayer games. These are all SaaS games. Games that you can play anywhere that you've got a reasonable connection. So there's many other interpretations of what games companies will do over the years. They're constantly one of the biggest developers within the cloud area. And lots of new potential sort of, think of transmedia storytelling and how we do that bit. It's a combination of a SaaS solution. So one solution that games are working on is a product called Steam, which has been out for a while now through various iterations. Steam is sort of an ASP and a SaaS solution. You can decide what you want to put onto it. You can put things on there where you can play it online. so I can have my game, I buy a game, and I can put it into any machine, and I can access all my data over the internet. So it allows a greater range of hardware to use that information. So if I buy a good cloud-based Steam game, if I buy the PC game, it also allows me to play it on a Mac or any other device that I want. It does cause problems with the games industry going into the cloud, because there's a lot of competition within the games industry, and the games industry like to hold on to you to their brand. So if I want to publish on Steam, I need to register with Steam and sign a user license with them that will mean I can only work with Steam. So there's a product called Deus Ex, which was one of the first that identified all the problems, where because they put their product onto Steam, other retailers refused to sell that product because they weren't using a cloud solution that that company did. So Game, for example, were developing their own cloud system, and so they refused to sell Deus Ex through their stores because it was in direct competition to them. OnLive is another solution which was launched in September 2011. You can tell it's a SaaS because it's got Play Free now, so you can do all sorts of other things for that. So other assets that are available, we got IaaS, which is Infrastructure as a Service. This is a service where you get a provision of things that you can do. It gives you a service to anything that you want to buy into via a web server. It's then up to you what you do with that service. So you can become very flexible in that service. So although YouTube is a SaaS, it gives you a service, it's not really an infrastructure because you're limited by some of the things you can do with it because YouTube vets it. So it's not quite a service. Then we've got PaaS, which is Platform as a Service. The idea of a platform is it gives you an operating system. So it gives you a whole thing to run your own things however you like. And the advantages from a company that's using a platform is the service is managed by the service provider. So you don't need any IT support. All you need is a good internet connection. So it actually reduces the need for IT technicians and things to work with it. So PaaS, the problem with it is that you're only limited to the services that it gives you. So if you want to expand upon it, if that provider isn't providing you that service, it may be out there, it may not be compatible with that platform that you've bedded into. So, Amazon are one of the leading people within the cloud community. They run this EC2 service. Most people think of Amazon as being a bookshop, game shop, or shop for it. But behind them, their backbone is huge, huge server capacity. So they're one of the biggest cloud suppliers in the world, and you can tap into them, and they will provide lots of SaaSes, lots of PaaSes, lots of IaaSes, and all sorts of other things as well. So that you can just buy into their accounts. So what we have is, if we're looking at the number of providers, if we're looking at software as a service, things like Cisco, Google Apps, Microsoft Exchange, and Salesforce provide software solutions, so they give you lots of software. There's going to be tens of thousands of these by 2019. For platform as a service, these are the people who give you real operating systems. These are going to be very limited. So Google App Engine is one, so they're going to give you a platform so you can make apps. Microsoft Azure Services platform. Salesforce are one of the biggest cloud suppliers in the world, and they supply you a platform to run your whole e-business via it, and other things like Engine Yard. And then infrastructure as a service, companies that are actually going to give you huge amounts of server space. These are going to be listed in the hundreds. Maybe we should start to think about Imperial One to this, but the main ones are Amazon, Rackspace, Terramark, Savvis, and AT&T, who have the huge data farms running through it. So other ones that are appearing, I've found these other ones which sort of start to get a bit confused. So there's this was from NetApps. So they've got storage as a service. So there's another SaaS, which is a bit confusing. But it's just places where you can just store loads of stuff. Desktop as a service, which will be an operating system like Linux. Backup as a service, so you can buy into services which back up all your system. Disaster recovery as a service, so when it all goes wrong, you can re-engineer it. Messaging and collaboration as a service, so infrastructures where you can start to work together, so you can have networks of teams working around. And SAP is one of the biggest things, so systems, applications and products as a service. So a lot of people are buying into SAP, they're one of the biggest providers. So, the cloud. All the characteristics of a cloud are within these as a service products. User may own their data and what they want to do with the data, but they don't own what the control is of that data. So you're tied to the services you buy in that allow you what it is you want to do on it. So some services offer professional solutions which are expensive. There's a lot of solutions out there which are free or cheap, where you get a lot more limitation. You pay for what you get in this world. The good clouds allow you a system that should be easy to move your data and information off of one cloud system and be able to put it onto another better cloud system at a later date. A lot of cloud systems tie you into their system. So some cloud systems, I won't mention names, you will buy them as a service and then it will trap you into that service, and if you want to leave that service because there's another service become available that you think is better for your purpose, you have to lose all that data. So it's a proprietary system. So if you're looking at cloud, it should be able to transfer things on and off of it very quickly and easily. The cloud is like is just a data center. So it's just people who are offering some solutions for you and really nothing else. The good thing about cloud is that it should be scalable. So if your needs change, you can change accordingly to it. So you can, so as Peer 1 was saying, if I'm only using a small amount on Monday but a big amount on Wednesday, I'm only paying for what I'm using. And that is very good, and it means that you can change machines and hardware and your user side very simply. Built-in backup is always offered on cloud systems, so if something goes down, you can always retrieve it, and if it's not, then you should question why. And also you can back up your systems to offline solutions as well. But vendor lock-in is one of the biggest issues. Clouds must be transportable from one provider to another. You should be able to run and integrate many different cloud services together. And that is often very difficult. Try and get iPlayer to work with YouTube, and it's not going to go too well. Services are often similar. So if I'm an end user, I've got a big company and I'm running this cloud-based system out to end users, if I swap services, the end user shouldn't notice any difference. I'm just changing the provider. So anything that's similar to your web provider, if I change the host of my website, the website still looks the same. So cloud is just distribution. So Salesforce are a big one for causing trouble. So PaaS is another where you get platforms as an issue or a problem. So Salesforce offer a complete e-commerce solution, which you have to buy into and get trapped into, and it makes it very difficult for you to leave if you want to go to another one, or even if that cloud provider goes bust. So if they stop providing that service, what happens to all your data? So, cloud is many things to different people. There's still a lot of confusion over what it is. It is like a grid computer system where you get networks of computers that are just all chatting to each other and communicating all the time. And these form to build super computers. So, let's look at the sunny side of cloud.
Land ands and whens and endless chords. Your system's down, then techie hordes. Each data centers you can ill afford. I've seen IT that way. But now we're in another age. Technology has turned the page. Computing's reached another stage. Behold the brand new day. IT is in the blue sky now. My local storage won't allow. It's cloud computing I want now. Who needs a server farm anyhow? Lines and lines of APIs and hardware systems I can't buy. With tech support, oh me, oh my, I've suffered in that zone. But cost keeps spiraling out of sight. Right as my budget's gotten tight, let me never spend another night with Rajesh on the phone. I've lived with IT up and down, my cards and tape and drives abound. It's cloud computing I choose now. Just plug me in all on. Oh wow.
So the great Luce Bruce, he's actually an IT engineer at Sun Computers who run Java. You may have noticed his Java thing. But the cloud is not rocket science.
What are you trying to do? Put my data center in the cloud.
So, the cloud, SaaS providers. So central stores for all your music do not need to have them on your iPod. So Apple still limits the way you can do this. You have to have a standard number of devices, unlike Spotify. So this is where the iCloud really isn't an iCloud because it restricts the way that you can use it. So SaaS providers. We talked about how you can use as you're paying as you use. There's these, Microsoft are offering SaaS solutions. You can get Photoshop and Creative Suite as a SaaS solution where you pay it on a user basis. You might buy a license for a month or a day or a week, but it will give you certain things. They're still working out how to monetize these kind of things. It's great because if you don't need to use something all the time, you can just buy into that service for a short period of time and get it done. So this is where they're saying it's the future of service of software, is that you will just buy what you need when you need it. So Oracle, they provide all sorts of different things, so absolutely massive. Although Larry Ellison says the cloud is the past, they've actually remastered themselves into being a cloud supporter, so they've just put it as a marketing term for themselves. And any service provider who does web hosting is also in the cloud. So the philosophy of the cloud is everything everywhere. That's not the new IT company. I wrote this before they all merged together. So everything on every platform, centralized data so you can get at everything at any time. It should reduce your IT costs. That's the real aim of it. You should be able to reduce the amount you need to spend. You shouldn't have any maintenance. You should be able to keep control of the cost of maintaining it. And this should reduce the company costs and allow home working, whether that's a good or a bad thing. So home working. So many companies are moving into the fact that you don't need to have an office anymore. You just need to have people online and working from their databases, which may be proprietary, they may not, depending on the service they buy into. So this reduces their costs enormously, especially in terms of building costs, business rates, and heating. So all of those costs go on to the worker, unless they've got a good scheme, like my wife. So remote workers, so because they don't have an office, they're more like salespeople. Salesmen and women have always been out on the road. They've always been accessing things outside, whether by phones or faxes or whatever it was in the past. And so for people out on the road and mobile, the cloud is a fantastic solution. So it enables the workforce, ideally, to be more productive, more profitable, and enable them to enhance the service to their clients. So reduce tech support. This is always good because data storage is outsourced to other companies, so you don't need to run your own servers. And the only data access controller is needed to arrange what provision of service or what services you want to buy into. Platform independence is very useful because data can be accessed anywhere on any device. If the data's in a good shareable format, it makes life easy, so you don't need to worry that everyone's got to run an Apple or everyone's got to run an iPad. It should be in a format that's available to everyone. So salesmen can use a pad to show their products to their clients. The client can enter the data via their own phone, and you don't need extensive laptops or expensive hardware to run it. So cloud solutions can make the device purchasing a lot cheaper. So the benefits of the cloud is that you can use things like iPads rather than laptops, so that's a lot cheaper to buy an iPad or Samsung than laptops. You don't need things like DVD drives or large hard drives. All you need is a screen that's going to be able to deliver that content. 3G and Wi-Fi are normally enough, although 4G, when it comes out and becomes affordable, will be better. And so you just need a good network to access that. And because nothing is stored on your machine, all you need is facilities to run something. You can choose your device based on your own preferences. So if you like a Samsung, you can use one of those. If you like an iPad, you can choose one of those as well. So the Google Chromebook is one of the first computers to come out without anything on the actual machine. It's all accessed via the network, pioneered with Samsung and Acer. So all you do is you run everything from a browser. So a basic browser here, obviously this is Google's basic set, all Google products from there. But you're not going to need machines with huge hard drives or huge amounts of RAM, because it will be delivered over the cloud. So these are really cheap. So you're talking a few £100 compared to £5,000, £6,000 or £1,500 for an Apple, which is all you're going to do is browse the net. So Chromebooks, most users spend 57% of their time on the internet when they're using a computer. Computers still seem a little geeky to some people. They still seem a bit alien. They do have potential to go wrong. And so the Chrome device is designed to be friendly and easy for everyone to use. Because the computers have less components, they don't have all the add-on hard drives and things, they're cheaper to build and therefore to buy. And for businesses using cloud systems, all you need is something like a Chromebook to do it. The advantage of a Chromebook over a pad is that you have a keyboard. And there's these new devices coming out with pads which are having keyboards in the lids and all sorts of other ways to come over that. The good thing is that they're really light to carry around. You haven't got to carry heavy bags full of computer kits, power cables. One of the things I love about the iPad is that the battery lasts forever. So I haven't got to worry about charging it every 10 minutes. So a case study of this, the US Ministry of Defense, their Defense Department, spent millions on cloud-based services for their troops on the front line. They access all their materials via satellites, via secure networks. One of the biggest problems of cloud was secure, but if it's good enough for the US Army, it's probably good enough for everyone. This allowed all the different services to share the same information. So the Air Force would receive the same information as the Army, and the Navy would see the same information as the Air Force. So it allows the Air Force to know where their troops are, because they're all navigated up, and so you get less friendly fire incidents, which is one of the things that's good for it. So everything then links straight back to central command, where they can keep control of everything and manage it all from there with live updates. So everyone gets all the information they want. Hopefully that makes less soldiers at risk and to be more effective in the tasks they need to achieve. Another case study was the English Navy. They started to put free cloud. They, on a military ship, everything that's on it has a manual about how to maintain it. So every plane on an aircraft carrier will have its own set of manuals for everything, because each plane is slightly different to another. So how the navigation system works, what weapon systems are, how the ejector seat works. So all the maintenance, they go, that's that plane, these are all the books. So you get stacks of books. So on the aircraft carriers, they replaced all of that with a network system. So all the manuals became instantly available everywhere. By removing all those books, that aircraft carrier rose 4 inches in the water. So when you think all the airplanes, when they take off from an aircraft carrier, don't actually raise the weight, the height of the ship at all, that's a tremendous achievement to do, which means it can then have more defense mechanisms on it or more aircraft for it. So it makes the ships safer. So they can have huge life-saving capabilities. But cloud isn't always good. We're going to look at why it's good. So the main thing is the hype behind the cloud. So we're going to look at why Larry Ellison isn't very happy about the cloud, and what does he say about it?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for that question, because cloud computing, the interesting thing about cloud computing is either going to be or already is the most important computing architecture in the world, because we've redefined cloud computing to include everything that we currently do. So it has already achieved dominance in the industry. I mean, I can't think of anything that isn't cloud computing with all of these announcements. I have to say that the only way I can understand the computer industry is the only industry that's more fashion-driven than women's fashion. I mean, cloud computing. I remember I was reading W, and I read that orange is the new pink, and cloud is the new SaaS, cloud is the new virtualization. It is the most nonsensical. I mean, I read these articles, I have no idea what they're doing. Now, maybe I'm an idiot. I have no idea what anyone's talking about. I mean, it's really just complete gibberish. Cloud computing is Google Mail is cloud computing. Okay, then Mark Benioff says SaaS is cloud computing. And I mean, what is it? What is it? Is it, oh, I'm going to access data on a server on the internet? That's cloud computing. Then there's a definition. What's cloud computing? It's using a computer that's out there. That's one of the definitions. The computer that's out there. These people who are writing this crap are out there. They're insane. I mean, the fact that, I mean, you read, it's the stupidest, look, because I've been through this. I mean, open source. Open source is going to destroy our business. We'll be nothing but open source, and we're out of business. But it was PCs going to destroy many computers going to destroy mainframes. PCs are going to destroy many computers. Open source was going to destroy standard. Everything was going to be delivered. All software is going to be delivered as a service. When is this idiocy going to stop? I'm going to have this a very long time. There's still mainframes. That was the first industry that was going to be destroyed. And watching mainframes being destroyed is like watching a glacier melt. I mean, even with global warming, it's taking a hell of a long time. What the hell is cloud computing?
So, if Larry Ellison doesn't believe cloud computing, then what is it? Cloud is basically a marketing term. That's all it is. They've just taken something and given it a new name and a new image to make it look trendy. So everything you go now, you see cloud everywhere. Even Oracle, even Larry Ellison has gone over for the marketing term. All his Oracle stuff is cloud-based now. It sells stuff, it makes it funky, it makes it useful for somebody. So cloud isn't new. There's nothing new in the cloud. It's just a way of accessing data or services or resources in a way that you could do before, but because our networks are better, you can gain more from it. So it's the same old infrastructure, but we've just got better systems to actually do it. So it has all the problems of a mobile phone. So if there's no network, you can't access it. But if there is a network, then it's a very good and useful thing to do. So what do you do when you do the mobile phone equivalent of being in a tunnel? You just can't access it. So you're technically unproductive at that point. Or if you're working on something, you lose everything. You're having a conversation, and the conversation ends because you've gone into a tunnel. And then you've got to start again once you come out of the tunnel. So it's a risky thing to do. The benefits of cloud is that you only pay for what you've got, but that can get rapidly out of control. If you've got a constant outlet of budget stream, how do you control that? Spotify have got around that. You can either get it free with adverts, or you can pay for a subscription. And this is where the latest model is. You pay for it for a month, or you pay for it for 2 months, or something like that. And then you can use it as much as you like. If you only want to use something for 10 minutes, then you're still going to pay for a month. So there's a downside of paying by the minute, or by the megabyte, or whatever you want to classify it. And there's other ways of doing it as well. But it can get out of control within a big company to keep it effective. You need to ask your IT. The benefit of it is you don't need an IT department, but you still need an IT department just to decide what equipment you need to use and what services you need to buy in. So it still doesn't reduce the cost of an IT department. And this IT department will possibly become even more powerful and even more expensive. So cost returns on going into the cloud. In the first year where you go into the cloud, the costs are astronomical. But the benefit of it is once you're there, the return on that investment is quite rapid. So if you're going to go into the cloud and run cloud things, it's good to have a long-term strategy on it. Don't go in there now and think it's going to save you millions and millions of dollars. It's going to cost you millions and millions of dollars. But over the next 3 years, it's going to save you millions and millions of dollars. So it does take a long time to get your money back for that, because you've got to set it up and test it and see what works. So here we're going to show a little video. So we're going to have a look at some of the cloud things. We're going to look at some e-commerce things. So PCI means Payment Card Industry Security Standards Council. So these are people who set the standards on security systems in e-commerce. In the cloud you get SLAs, SLAs, service level agreements. I'm sure Ian has a service level agreement with Tier 1. What is it they're going to do? What is it going to provide? And what can you expect from them? OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, lots of security on cloud. WAF, Web Application Firewall. Identity 2, new digital identity protocols. MCSE, the Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. And SSL, you probably all know, Secure Socket Layer, which is what you use to encrypt your data. So, sorry for the French, but there's a lot of reading in there.
System halt gelungen, die Fundamentinformation zu liefern. Der Süden hat den Gegner Zossen genommen und stößt auf Staatsopfer. Der Feind operiert hier vom nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen Frohnau und Pankow. Und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Richtung nach Marsdorf und Karlshorst. Mit dem Angriff stand das alles in Ordnung kommen. Mein Führer, Steiner konnte nicht genügend Kräfte bei einem Angriff passieren. Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt. Es bleiben überhaupt alte Leute, Krebs und Tod.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war Befehl! Wer sind Sie? Der Militär hat Befehle! Jeder hat Befehle! Widerstreitiger treuloser Feiglinge!
Vielleicht kann ich zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verrückt
Ist das Feiglinge! Verreiter Versager!
Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen, ist ungeheuerlich.
Die Kellerei ist doch der Stolz des deutschen Volkes! Sie sollen ehren! Sie nennen sich gerade, weil Sie Jahre auf Militärakademie zugebracht haben, nur um zu lernen, wie man mit Verderbe hält! Widerstand in der Welt gelegt! Ich hatte Guter getan! Von Jahren alle Höheroffiziere liquidiert worden, wie Stalin! Ich wurde nie auf einer anderen gehen. Und doch habe ich allein auf Wissenschaft, ganz Europa erobert. Fahr weiter. Von allen Anfang an bin ich sofort nach und betrauen worden. Es wurde ein ungeheurer Verrat gegen das deutsche Volk. Und alle Verrat bezahlen. Mit ihrem eigenen Blut werden sie bezahlen. Sie werden das saufen in ihrem eigenen Blut. Sie glauben, Sie müssen ihn verlassen, irren Sie sich der Wein und er jagt den Kuchen durch den Kopf. Nur ist ihm was
Anything on the internet, just Google Hitler's doing something in the computer and you'll find a video of them about that. So the thing there is security is a big worry for people on the cloud. This is overcomable, but it is something that needs to be considered. You can sue your provider, but you still lose your data. So you need to make sure you're getting it right, and this is where service level agreements come through. Standard encryption is not enough for cloud solutions. You need to have the highest level security that you can have to stop it going, especially if you're dealing with anything private, personal, or financial. The advantage of making it someone else's problem is not a solution. So the cloud does make IT somebody else's problem, but you still need to make sure it's your problem, that it still is your data, and it's still your net that's on the line if something goes wrong. If a provider goes bust or does something illegal or is hosting something illegal, you can still lose your data. So WikiLeaks is one of the things that suffer from this, where the government, or the American government, really latched down to try and crucify a system. And it raises major problems about freedom of information, data security, freedom of speech, and all sorts of other areas around the cloud and network computing and traffic. And a lot of it is possibly overreaction about it. So WikiLeaks is technically providing a service, I'll put that in quotation marks, but there are other websites which aren't providing a service, like Anonymous. This is the Anonymous website, which are the people who do all the big hacking stuff. And you can go to there and they will teach you how to hack. They will teach you how to join their service and become one of their subscribers to it. WikiLeaks possibly is or isn't illegal, depending on your point of view. Anonymous is illegal, but they're still allowed to put things out there. So it's a very tricky thing. The American government aren't slaughtering this website, they are slaughtering WikiLeaks. So the US government can bully cloud suppliers into submission because they control all the rights of it. So with WikiLeaks, they stopped any bank doing transactions with them, they stopped data transactions going on. They just clamped down on anything that will support WikiLeaks. So even though Visa had nothing to do with WikiLeaks, they took away. Even though Google had nothing to do with WikiLeaks, PayPal didn't have anything to do with WikiLeaks, they stopped those companies working or just showing their information on their systems. So it creates huge problems on it. And what WikiLeaks does is no different to what any other newspaper does, where they have a Dropbox in their reception where you can put in confidential information. All newspapers use that kind of system. The only thing WikiLeaks did is that it did it digitally. What they tend to overlook is the governments tend to look at the negative sides of all these cloud systems and what it's doing for information, and none of the positive sides. So they look at the cloud was responsible for the Norwegian massacre because he was allowed to look at lots of information that gave him inspiration for it, but they forget how the cloud has changed society with things like the Arab Spring or the Facebook rebellion, where Facebook was one of the main things that did it, or all social networking was one of the main things that enabled the Arab Spring, despite all the government's attempts in each country to try and close down the systems that do it. And one of the best surviving systems was the Blackboard Messenger system. So it has its good points and it has its bad points. In a modern society, do you want to take on the good points and the bad points, or do you just want to make a biased opinion? It's something that needs to be considered with the cloud. So the cloud can create new trends. So do you need to keep away from it until all the problems are solved in it? This is something you need to discover for yourself. The fact that you never know where your data is stored, you can know where your data is stored depending on the provider, but where your data is stored is the laws that you tend to have to abide by. The Americans' system at the moment of wanting to control the internet is, okay, there was mega download in New Zealand, but they wanted to arrest them in New Zealand for infringing American law, even though the data wasn't housed there, and they won their case. And only because of I forget the name of the English guy now, because he has some autism disorder, stopped him being extradited to America for running a video sharing thing, which wasn't hosted in America. So America trying to control this global market of policing the internet, and that's something that needs to be addressed, and depending on what side you're on for that. So be aware of where your data is and what your data is doing. Site and hardware audits are important to find out what people are doing and are you using the right kind of stuff. And moving your data to another communication service provider may be necessary and should be easy at various times. So, if you're dependent upon financial security of another company, that can cause you worries. So you've got to have your data hosted by someone. What happens when Tier 1 were excellent, they kept their servers up and running all the way through Sandy. They admirable. What happens if they didn't? Is there another solution that's available for you? You can have some customization, but are you allowed to customize freely? You need to develop a new business model if you're working in the cloud. Don't just try and work in the same old way that you worked before. To maximize it, you need to change the way that you do it. And it could mean that you're now going to work 24/7 rather than a standard working day. So many businesses are considered private clouds. Private clouds are where you run your own server under your own security system. So you don't put it into data farms, so you're not reliant on another service provider to give you that service. To do that, you've got to have a data infrastructure. You can't just tap it into your broadband. Broadband's great at sucking down information. It's not very good at pumping up. You've got to have a pure digital phone line for that, which costs some money, and you've got to host all your service and you've got to maintain it. If you're running your own private cloud, it takes away all the benefits of having a cloud solution because you've still got to pay for all the IT support for it. It does allow you to control it and do what you want under all the legislation. If you don't conform with it, then you've got to pay the price. But a lot of companies aren't considering personal data being done on. Payroll for most companies still isn't being done by the cloud. They're still doing this via traditional systems as we go. So these a little graph here of what some companies' worries with the cloud are. The main companies are that it's security and privacy, some that it's too immature, some that they believe it's cheaper, or compatibility, and so you can work down there. The funniest thing is at the bottom one of 0% was it's not too difficult to understand. It's a really clean, simple solution to do. So coming to the end, so there's two directions to the cloud. You've got hardware solutions, the systems that drive it. You've got software solutions and server capacity, and so you've got the service at the front and the back end to consider. So the hardware is an exciting area under development. That's what Tier 1 do. So looking at ways we can do it, we've got lots of high-end processors, lots of development coming out in different servers. Many developers have been working on this for years. It's 1990s with Java computers, Linux computers, all sorts of different kinds of server solutions. Many solutions are in their infancy, but I would always argue all the solutions are in their infancy because we're always developing forward. You have to jump in at some point. But if you're going to reinvest a company's budget to go to the cloud, you've got to consider how you're going to get that return on investment and be in there for the long term. So many solutions that you get are not new and just rebadged services like the iCloud. It's a lot different from that in many ways. It will allow off-site and flexible working. Providers can grow, but care is needed on their capacity. Amazon currently lead the way with VC2, but there's lots of people. Cloudflare so enormous. Depends on the kind of business you want to tap into. But be aware of security, legal, and audits. Consumers and professional software deliverers will change the way we work with the software providers. So the way you purchase software in the future, I don't know if you know, Apple are going to, you're not going to go down the road and buy Adobe software CS suites in the future. You have to do it via the App Store. So they're going so that everything, all the software you buy on the apps will be done via the App Store, so that's their aim. I won't say it's because they make 40% of all the sales on that. So costing may be reduced, but it will also cause some problems as well. Some cloud solutions are just old solutions, just rebadged, and using apps may or not change how we work. So there's advantages of having some software on your computer and some software delivered via the cloud. So there's still an advantage of having hard drives and things because if you're doing something like Photoshop, it takes a lot of processing. Doing that entirely cloud can be very processor intensive heavy. And getting that done by a remote server could be a problem. However, doing video rendering to a render farm on the cloud, you can just send your model off, come back next week, go home, go to bed, turn the computer off, you're running the electricity at your cloud place, not your electricity, and it will get done faster on thousands of machines rather than just your processor. So think about the workflow of your solution. So many people like Adobe, Sony, PlayStation offer cloud solutions for their software. A lot of cloud solutions are just storage things. I have to say with Steam, it's really just a storage thing. It stores your gameplay on their engines. It doesn't give you any true software. And be aware that when people are using cloud, it's not just a marketing term, so don't believe hype on that. So some people believe, a quote here from Gartner, it's a research agency, some people believe cloud computing is the most significant paradigm shift since the internet. Others think it's just a fad. One thing is for certain, cloud technology is rising to the top of every company's priority list. Everybody's thinking about cloud. It has certain benefits, but everyone's thinking about it. So that's the end of this presentation. I just ended with a Dilbert cartoon. It says here in Dilbert's book, you'll need approval from the cloud. Dilbert says the cloud. It was once called matrix management, but it's got so complicated that no one knows who does what. It goes into a cloud, it goes, can you approve this? What did everyone else say? So cloud can be a big mishmash of information. So thank you for listening. At the end of this presentation, if you take the information away, you can have links to all the videos and stuff on YouTube. So, now